What made you pick Surat Al-Nūr to teach?
AlMaghrib Institute presents Q&A with Kamal al-Mekki.
Like, why this course?
I would imagine
Why
there's
were you
other
inspired?
surahs also that kind of...
There's a million, yeah. I mean, there's 113 other ones.
I always say that when they announced that I'm going to be teaching Surat Al-Nūr, which I proposed to Al-Maghrib, some of the instructors called me up and they were jealous. They were like, man, I want to do Surat Al-Nūr.
Okay.
So it started when I think I was probably about 17 or 18 years old, and the masjid behind their house, like 2 streets behind the house, the imam decided to do Tafsir Surat An-Nūr. And
this is where?
This is in Sudan.
Okay.
So I was there for a while, and this happened. And when he got into the area on the etiquettes of visitation, and I realized that like we don't know any of this stuff. And I'm talking generally as a community, we don't know any of this stuff. We break all these rules.
This is in an Eastern culture.
This is in a Muslim culture,
yeah. Like people will knock on the door non-stop. They'll
walk
knock
right in
with sticks or with rocks. They'll knock on your gate, or they walk right in, or all this stuff.
I feel like there's more formality in the visitation of other people's homes here in the West,
probably,
than there is in the
because
East.
you have families, and you have people who they grow up together for 20 years. So like you, as a child, you just run into the next door house, and then you grow up, you just walk in.
Yep.
And actually, this happened one time. I went to visit some relatives, and I knocked on the door, and then they let me in. Then after we sat down, the guy, after greeting and everything, looks at me and says, "Why did you knock on the door?" And I kept explaining to him why I kept knocking. Then my friend tells me he's saying you should have just walked in. Yeah. He's trying to say it's your home.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you got women, and they may not be presentable, and I can't just walk in.
Yeah.
But that's his way of saying this is your home.
Okay. Okay. So his admonition of like, yo, why you knocking, is him trying to be hospitable.
Yeah.
But then how do you also differentiate between the fact that there are certain understandings and norms within a culture, right? Like look, you don't need to knock in this culture. Just walk on in, right? Versus like, hey, these are the rules of visitation.
Yeah. So these things, if culture will define them, and sometimes even in Islam, there's room for that. Like the famous story, and I forget, and I've actually read it a number of times, each time with a different scholar. But one time it was Al-Hasan ibn Ali, one time it was I don't know, but he was asleep. Hasan al-Basri maybe. He was asleep.
Oh, the character in the story is different.
Every time I hear it, but he was asleep and there were some grapes next to him.
Okay.
When he woke up, one of his close friends was sitting next to him and he was eating from the grapes.
Yeah.
So when he woke up and he saw him doing that, he says, that's how close friends are. It's like, you don't have to, he's asleep, I didn't get his permission to eat from the grapes. He's my friend, we're like brothers.
You walk in, you eat from their fridge.
Yeah. Open up the fridge and start eating.
So even in Islam, there's allowance for that. But like I always tell people, like, make sure you're both at that level where don't assume, we're buddy. I just walk into his house, open his fridge, take some. And if I don't see you that way, and this was a true story, like there was a guy lived in my apartment building, and he would just push the door, walk in, walk straight to the fridge, pick something, and I don't know him that well, and honestly, I didn't even like him that much. But he assumed we were at that level. So as long as it's understood between the two of you that it's at that level, you don't have to go through the formality, knock 3 times, and if they don't answer.
How do you address something like that?
I always tell people,
err
on the side of formality, don't err on the side of familiarity.
No, okay, fine. That's from your perspective of telling an audience of, you're teaching them manners. But then what's the other side where it's like, all right, this person that you're engaging with, like they don't know that, right? This buddy of yours, you don't even like him. He's not even your buddy. He thinks you're his buddy.
And I couldn't tell him either.
Right, so like
we're indirect people. I couldn't. I just kept hating him more and more inside. Change the lock. Start locking the door.
Is that the solution? Be like, yo, I'm out.
This is an issue in Sudanese culture. Like, we're not direct. You know, like when you visit someone, you would, like, you're thirsty. You're always thirsty by default in Sudan. You're always thirsty.
Is it dry or humid?
It's dry and hot. Okay. And no matter how you got to that person's house, he's well aware that you're probably thirsty by now.
Yeah.
So he says, I'll get you something to drink. And you want it, but you say no first.
Oh,
and he knows,
formality.
Because I don't want to, create a hassle for you. You get up and so you say no. Then he says, let me get you something to drink. Like, no, I'm all right. Just sit down. We're talking. Let me get you something. No, just sit down. We're talking. Let me get you something. Okay, khalas, give me something.
So,
and we go through this.
On my last trip to Sudan,
I made a huge mistake. I forgot about this.
Oh, come on now.
So we're going from my village to a nearby village, and villagers, they pack the back of the pickup truck. It's just one pickup truck. You've got 3 seats in the front, and you've got everybody else in the back. And so I was with my wife and with my uncle. And so everybody was like, no, your wife, she can't sit in the back of the pickup truck. She needs to sit in the seat.
Wait, meaning in the actual flatbed?
Yeah, in the bed.
Everybody's in the back of the bed.
Okay,
Yeah, and nobody falls off.
Nobody falls off. You hang on. There's like 20 of you there.
And
that's normal.
And the roads
So it looks
are
like
not
a
straight.
like a landscaping company.
Yeah, you just learn how to sit on the side.
Yeah.
Like, and you're like, it's embarrassing for a man to sit on the actual bed. You have to sit on the side,
Yeah, man.
like, you know.
And the
then
roads
you
are
leave
not
the
straight,
beds,
by the
you
way.
leave the beds for the women. The
Right,
women and the
right,
children,
right.
they sit in the bed. So
Okay.
it'll literally be like a good 15, 20 people.
Wow,
So anyway,
okay.
one of my aunts, she climbed up to be in the back.
Yeah.
So then I said to my aunt, I said, why don't you come and sit in the front?
Yeah.
And she's like, no, you sit with your wife. I said, cool. I went and I sat with my wife.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
What a mistake.
Huge. I did not insist.
What was the consequence?
The consequence was her being mad at me and her telling my uncle, one of my other uncles who was in the back with her, you know, Ammar didn't insist for me to be, and he's like, he asked you, and he was like, why did you lie? If you wanted to sit in the front, then you should have just sat in the front. She's like, he didn't insist. And so, you know, he told me later, he's like, you should have insisted. I was like, I'm sorry, I forgot. I should have continued to do it.
A long
It's been a long time. I was away for a little bit.
One of the important things is that people just understand that this is just a cultural difference, and they don't try to make one Islamic, the other un-Islamic. Don't try to make one good, the other bad. It's just culture.
Right.
Like, and there are a lot of things that are just cultural, but people make it about religion. You know, like, don't walk in front of your parents.
Yeah.
That's not Islam, like haram in Islam. It's just
Yeah.
culture. But then what if someone comes from a culture where there's nothing wrong with it?